So let me answer this way. I'm a Christian. I belong to the so-called marginalized section of society. But not once have I felt marginalized in this country. There's no space for someone to take the middle path. Madhyam mark.
No one takes it.
No one takes the Madhyam mark. Nobody wants to watch serious discussions anymore. So much so that even in Parliament we don't have serious discussions. Years ago, when a news anchor shouted at a politician, or when a news anchor took on a politician on television, the audience would stand and applaud and would say ki, "Arey wah, temples burning and getting destroyed in Pakistan. Marginal sections of society are completely in disarray there. They are not even living like, third class citizens. They are living worse than that. Who have no names, or MPs who have no background have won, from their constituencies just by taking the name of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The ministers have time to speak to beer and biceps, but don't really have time to speak to real media."
First of all, Frank sir, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for being with Team AP. The whole Team AP is extremely grateful to you that you spared time out of your busy schedule and finally managed to have this conversation with us. I'm extremely grateful for that.
Thank you so much for having me, Aftab. It's a real pleasure, and I welcome you and the team AP into the home as well. So this is the first interview that's happening within this premises, I must say. So it feels good. So I've opened up the doors, and I'm happy that the doors were opened up to you for the first time.
I would say not first interview, first podcast. Basically.
First podcast, yes. Sorry.
Yeah. So, honestly, there are so many things that I want to dig deep into, especially this current Indian image that we are having, not only in terms of politics, but overall. Even if you see India as a illiterate person, there are so many perspectives that one can touch. But honestly, for the starters, let's start with this basic thing. And this particular name is there in your establishment, that is Bharata First. So this particular ideology has already been criticized a lot by many liberals and left people, that Bharata is a very ancient name and why we have to use it, and they give their own sort of criticism towards it, that we have India, now we should call it India. So if I put this in perspective, and I'm not going to limit this question to any particular form, and I want to keep the stage open here. So what do you feel about this myth versus reality on the term Bharata? How would you explain that?
I mean, the answer is in your question. Aftab, thank you for asking this question. It's an interesting question. The moment someone hears Bharata, immediately they think that it's associated with something that is right wing, or it is associated with being a Bhakt. Let me put it this way. What is wrong in being a Bhakt? Bhakt comes from where? From Bhakti. What is Bhakti? Devotion. Who doesn't want to be a devout person?
True.
Who doesn't want devotion in their life? Coming back to Bharata. Sometimes, people from the right wing also criticize Bharata, saying that it's anglicized. Many of them don't even know anything about Bharata. We are a great nation. You spoke about history, you spoke about legacy. Bharata brings with it thousands of years of legacy, brings with it knowledge, brings with it wisdom, brings with it everything that is associated with being Indian. So why throw it away? And Bharata, let me also tell you, is not anglicized, but it is actually what it is in Sanskrit. Bharat is Hindi, Bharata is Sanskrit. So that's how it is. And these are some things that we need to get right first, and then you can see what a beautiful place Bharata is, what a beautiful history it has, what a beautiful association it has with everything that is Indianness.
Do you feel it threatens the whole image of secular India? That relating the particular ideology of Bharata to Sanskrit, that is a Hindu sort of ideology of religion?
Not really. I mean, you don't relate it to anything. You just leave it as it is. Bharata, let it be Bharata. Where does it come from? Where does the word, or where does the term come from? It comes from an old clan. It all comes from an old kingdom, isn't it? And it is so much more better than any of the other terms. But there's no problem with calling it India as well, because times change. You are in a different world today. So what? So call it India too. I mean, it's left up to an individual. Be comfortable first and foremost with who you are, what you are saying, and where these terminologies come from. Understand it, make it your own, and then you'll automatically defend it. There's nothing to defend at the end of the day. And Bharata in itself is about being a secular land, is about welcoming everyone. The problem really is that these words, secular and bhakt and all of this have been so misconstrued in the recent past that they have become polluted, so to speak. But if you go to the root of it, you'll understand that there is nothing bad about it.
Would you like to describe the roots a bit for the viewers?
No, like I said, Bharata itself, or Bhakt, like I mentioned about Bhakt and Bhakti.
Yeah.
It's similar. Nobody ever looks at Bhakt as Bhakti, and how that is the root really. The more you understand that, the more you will realize how important this land Bharata is. That is what is important.
And how would you like to still defend that against, like, in the current picture of India, there are some people who belong to the marginalized community, and they keep on pointing toward this one thing, that the country that we are living in is sort of, giving them that terror, is sort of giving them that view that, they don't feel safe. Yeah, they don't feel good when it comes to issues like this, secular India and all that stuff. And in the name of that, we are actually promoting one religion. That's what the people say.
Okay, so let me answer this way. I'm a Christian. I belong to the so-called marginalized section of society, but not once have I felt marginalized in this country. I've lived here long enough. I've lived here peacefully. I've lived here without anyone raising a hand or raising any kind of accusations against me. So it depends on how you live life also. Also, let me tell you that I have completely rooted in me the meaning of what India is, and that is something that I understand, I respect. I had several opportunities to go abroad. With a name like Frank Pereira, there are several Western countries who are willing to welcome you. But I'm very happy here. I'm happy in my skin here. There is not once that I have been taken advantage of, or have been rubbed the wrong way, or someone has discriminated against me. Now, if you do something that is not acceptable, I don't mean to the majority, but I mean not acceptable to society or not acceptable to humanity as a whole, then you are bound to get into trouble. But otherwise, someone who belongs to the marginalized sections of society, I can tell you openly and frankly on your podcast today that I have never been discriminated against. So, I'm standing proof.
But is it possible, like, you were part of some government organizations like RSTV and now even DD? Because of that particular thing, you were not facing any sort of issues?
See, I don't know. I see, we only get to read many of these things in the newspapers. For instance, the media also at the end of the day has an agenda. Whose agenda they're driving, we don't really know. We don't really know where the money is coming from, but at the end of the day, media houses are no longer what they used to be. Media houses have an agenda. Media houses have businesses to run. So these are some things that they keep in mind. Where the funding is coming from, who's funding them, who's telling them to run particular stories in a particular way. So that's something that we need to go beyond or read between the lines and understand. But there are many reports that talk about how there are certain sections of society or members of certain sections of society who are targeted specifically in places like rural UP or in the rural hinterland. Well, I've not been there, so I can't really comment on that. But at least where I have been and where I'm sitting from, I can very frankly and very honestly say that maybe, like you pointed out, maybe I've had the I've had the privilege or the luck of sitting down in cities and in protected spaces, and that's why this hasn't happened to me. Maybe if it does happen to me someday, my mindset may change. But like I said, I'm so rooted with being an Indian and being a Bharatiya that this is something that that I don't think should affect me too much.
And since you were bringing in media here, so I would like to ask something here. And I really want to picture this question very blatantly here. This may sound rude, but no disrespect to any profession of media here, because there are people out there who are doing their job. But in straight out line, because observing the current media that we are having, is Indian journalism over?
Indian journalism is not over. This is just a phase. It's just a passing tide, so to speak. There was a time in between, just before the pandemic, when we thought that newspapers are going to be out of business and there's not going to be any scope for newspapers anymore. So what they did, they adapted. They started the digital mode. They started subscriptions for newspapers like Indian Express, Hindustan Times, and others. This is something that was very common in the West. New York Times had a subscription, Washington Post has a subscription, ESPN had a subscription. But we thought that probably the Indian masses would not be willing to pay or willing to go down that line. But we've seen that, with passing time, especially after the pandemic as well, that people are willing to pay for good content. People are willing to pay for news that is available to them in a particular way. So I wouldn't say that journalism is dead. I would say that it is going through a rough phase, and like any other profession, it's something that you can't do without, because information is key, and we live in a world of information overload, and it becomes very important and critical in today's day and age to try and decipher what is important and what is not. The difference only is that you have many different varied sources in front of you. You have traditional media, you have digital media, you have social media, you have XYZ media. You have 7-8 different sources. It's left up to the consumer to finally decide and go through this and understand what is right and what is wrong.
But still, do you feel that extremism is killing the vibe of the media, as in what it was a decade ago? It's no longer that.
Times also have changed in before the 1990s. It was very difficult for an individual in the age group of 20 to 35 to even think of buying a house or think of buying a car. But today, individuals below 25 have a house, have a car, and have everything else that they want. So it's a matter of evolution. So media too is going through that process of evolution. Has there been polarization? There certainly has been polarization. Has it happened in the past? Of course it has happened in the past, during the emergency, during Indira Gandhi's rule, and so on. But like I said, this over the last 15 years, what we've seen is a transformational change as far as media is concerned. There will be some kind of consolidation that takes place eventually. Whether that will happen in the next 2 years or whether that will happen in the next 5 years is something that we need to wait and watch. But like any other profession, like anything else in life, this is just an evolved form is what you're seeing in front of you.
But don't you feel this evolved form is not taking stands? As in earlier, at least there used to be stands. There was left, there was right, but now there is only one particular side that is shown in media, and people also knows it.
I would argue to the contrary. Now, there's no space for someone to take the middle path, Madhyam mark.
No one takes that.
No one takes the Madhyam mark. There is no place at all. You're either left or you're either right. And if you take the middle path, and if you go by the golden mean, you get galis, or you get threatened by people from the left and the right. So you're left in no man's world. So today's day and age, what we are actually seeing is two extremes. Even if you look at digital content or content on YouTube and so on and so forth, you have some people who are extremely right wing and the others who are extremely left wing. For instance, I think there is Deshbhakt on one side and there is Andhbhakt, or whatever it is, something else on the other side. So it's weird. I mean, people today are taking extreme stands, and that is the unfortunate because lack of a better word, I'll say this is the unfortunate circumstance that we are seeing right now as a result of this so-called evolution, where it has evolved into going into two extremes.
But what has happened to us that we are now in that particular stage? I mean, there was this media report that was published, like the government declined that it's completely false, where India was placed below Afghanistan when it comes to the overall coverage of journalism and media.
Freedom of Press Index
Yeah.
is something that India has fared poorly as far as its rankings are concerned. But there have been several question marks about the methodology in which is used as far as this index itself is concerned. One of the big indicators, or one of the big ranking factors as far as this index is concerned, is it talks about oligarchs being in control of media houses. For instance, a big conglomerate or a big company named X is in control of a big media house which is Y. And that is happening. And that is something that I have spoken about very vociferously in the past as well. It's not good for journalism, because a businessman or a big business house, whenever it comes on board and takes on a media channel, they will always have ulterior motives. They will always have their agenda to run, and they will be the majority stakeholder in ensuring that they push their news forward. So as far as journalism is concerned, it is bad for journalism. But like I said, there is going to be someone else who's going to come about at some point in time. We also need to understand one more thing, Aftab. See, most of these media houses are churning out all of this. If, for instance, you watch any of these news channels, 9 p.m. debate.
Yeah.
It's become more of a theatre show. It's not a debate or a discussion anymore. It's become tamasha. The great 9 p.m. tamasha is how I would like to call it. It's because there is a demand for it also at some level. People are fed up and tired of. Nobody wants to watch serious discussions anymore. So much so that even in Parliament we don't have serious discussions. So when the members of Parliament are not having serious discussions, how can you expect the people to sit and listen to serious discussions?
I mean, that's a very nice use of metaphor, I would say.
So that's something else that's happened as well. People are working all the time. There's just too much of pressure. There is too much to do. So they just need an outlet to let loose. And this is one way of letting loose.
But
you've seen in television discussions one guest running to another guest with an arrow, तीर के साथ भाग रहा है दूसरे guest के पीछे, and ये दिखाते हैं TV पे 9 बजे पे. So I mean, this is something that we've seen.
No, they are more creative when it comes to Russia and US issues. They put these missiles on the head of Russia.
Absolutely. So so this also shows that there is a demand for this. नहीं तो कब के बंद हो जाते हैं.
So what do you feel like how this status quo can change?
People are eventually going to get fed up. For instance, a few years ago, when a news anchor shouted at a politician, or when a news anchor took on a politician on television, the audience would stand and applaud and would say ki, "Arey wah, dekho yaar, look at this courageous fellow, he's talking to a politician like this." Very good. So they felt that news anchor is representing them. But slowly we've seen that people are switching off. People are no longer, subscribing or getting used to that kind of content. They are moving to other content. There are going to be more content providers who come to the fore, who are going to be extremely successful in what they do. And let me just give you an example. Up until a few years ago, maybe a couple of years ago, politicians or big guests were not even bothered about YouTube or not even bothered about digital content. All they wanted to do is be on television. Television news. If you said I'm calling from this YouTube channel, I'm calling from this podcast, yahan wahan se, khatam. Phone is cut and they'll probably even tell you don't call next time. But now we've seen that change. Even the stakeholders have realized, have understood, that YouTube or digital content, podcasts as well, is a big space for them to start appearing on. And nowadays they are open to the idea of speaking to digital, even not even big time digital players, but small time digital players as well. And this is something that has changed. So the audience also has started watching this there.
Yeah.
So eventually you will see more and more of this.
Even if you know about this particular podcaster, he's currently the biggest in India, Beer Biceps.
Beer Biceps.
So he did this collaboration with MyGov, where the 4 ministers of the government were there for the collaboration.
Correct.
What do you feel about that sort of collaboration government doing with young people and especially podcasters having so much of reach?
It's great, isn't it? It's opened up a whole new avenue.
But
really.
There is a criticism to this, that this is now paving the way towards, like the government is directly getting into our heads. They are like, we are scrolling reels, we are scrolling shots, and we are seeing, let's say, Smriti Irani or S. Jaishankar speaking one particular thing, and deep down when we will research about them, we will come to this conclusion, oh, they belong to BJP. And then deep down we will be having this particular ideology that, oh, BJP is doing good work, they are coming to media, they are coming to this, because at the end the voter is mostly not so much educated, or they won't do so much of research.
No, don't discount the voter. Elections are great levelers. I'll just give you an example. In 2004, everyone thought that the BJP would come back to power, because the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee had done a wonderful job. He had done well during his tenure. They had the India Shining campaign and so on and so forth, and it was reported in the media and everywhere else as well that it was a foregone conclusion that the BJP would come back to power, but they didn't. 2004, the UPA government was formed, and like I said, so elections are a great leveler, and don't discount the common man or the voter, because he is far more aware than any one of us, because at the end of the day he is concerned about what he wants. In Bihar, 10 years ago, all they wanted was Bijli Sadak Pani. They got that. They ensured that government was in power. So, as far as diving deep down to try and see whether someone belongs to this particular school of thought or this particular school of thought, maybe it will take some time. But at the end of the day, the voter knows what he or she wants and will finally go out there and vote how he or she wants to vote. But with regards to this question that you are asking me about, Beer Biceps, I feel it's a great opportunity. As far as a youngster is concerned, tomorrow if you get the opportunity of doing the same, it's great. Now, what are your political leanings, what are not your political leanings, that is for me to do a little bit of a background check as far as you are concerned, and then decide. But at least you're opening up that avenue to youngsters, you're opening up that avenue to a whole bunch of subscribers and a whole bunch of individuals who are willing to listen to that. And then if tough questions are not asked, or if the right questions are not asked, there are people who will point that out as well and say that why didn't you ask this, or why wasn't this particular aspect pointed out. The good thing is, forget about what kind of a backing the person has or not. The good thing is, at least top 4 ministers have decided to do something out of the box and something that is not so traditional, which is good. So tomorrow, Aftab also can make a pitch and say that, if A can do an interview, why not me? At least at some point in time, don't give me top 4, give me 16 to 20. At least, for those who are not even thinking about a digital interview, say for instance, a minister of state, for instance, would have never thought about doing a digital interview, but he has seen Smriti Irani, he's seen the foreign minister doing an interview. He's open at least to the idea of saying, okay, fine, I can do an interview. So you're opening the doors, you're opening new doors.
And about the side thing that one might be inclined, suppose if the government, like I was explaining earlier, is diving deep into the brains of the young people, because usually they are not those people who know so much of stuff when it comes to politics.
All movements across the world have been led by students. So don't discount the students as well. Because it is at that age and it is the students who can really bring about change. JP movement also was led by students. So the students cannot be easily misguided. Because it is this young lot who ask the tough questions as well. You look at the protests in Hong Kong against a regime like the Chinese government. It was the students who did everything that they possibly can to go against Beijing. So that is what students can do, and it is this generation, this crowd, that can really bring about change. Because see, once you get married, once you have children, once you have a family and all of those other things, that you have other things on your mind. Those things take precedence over everything else, and it's very difficult for them to come out on the streets and bring about change. They just like to have a normal life, a peaceful life. It is those who have nothing to lose who can be revolutionary, who can bring about the change that is required.
As in, when it comes to interviews, especially this is a very controversial thing, and people have been putting this out. Like PM Modi went to US for the state dinner, so they were there, and the press were asking them questions about again the marginalized communities. So for the first time ever, we saw PM Modi is sort of addressing an issue or a question that is on such a serious note. When it comes to India, we don't often see PM Modi interacting with the media at such a level where tough questions are asked. So, what do you feel about that zone?
First and foremost, I don't think the media ask tough questions in India. So,
but they are not allowed. Like, there might be people out there who are willing to ask, but they won't be allowed, I guess.
Again, it comes down to traditional media or new age media. Maybe the new age media, certain sections of new age media are willing to ask those questions. But traditional media, they are not going to ask those questions. So where are these questions going to come from? Secondly, talking about marginalized sections of society, and US, since we are speaking about marginalized sections of society and US, I thought I'll bring this up as well. You see temples burning and getting destroyed in Pakistan. Marginal sections of society are completely in disarray there. They are not even living like, third class citizens. They are living worse than that. But it's the same US who's funding them to take care of issues in Afghanistan, to take care of other issues as well. And it is the same US media who cross questions India and brings up tough questions as well. What about people who are marginalized in the United States? You had the whole what movement was that?
Black movement.
You had that whole movement. I'm not recalling the name right now. But that was
Black Lives Matters.
Yes, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
That entire movement that took place there. Look at the gun culture in the United States. Nobody seems to be addressing that. So everyone has problems. Let me tell you this. It's not like but the problem is the kettle is calling the cup black. That is what the issue is. So every country has issues. Every government has issues. Every leader has issues. It is important for us to look at the bigger picture and see what is the best for us in that particular context, and then see how the nation is moving forward, and that's what's important.
And what do you feel about the current movement in the Indian politics, as in now it's like India versus India, this alliance that is
A smart move, to say.
Well, that name is very, I would say, eye-catchy.
It is extremely eye-catchy, and for once it seems like the opposition is being smart.
Very smart.
They have been fighting with each other, against each other for about a decade now, or more than that. Finally, they have realized, I guess, that they have to come together, and otherwise the BJP juggernaut is going to roll over them all over again in 2024. It looks, the signs are ominous really, but at least they are working smart. I think Rahul Gandhi's yatra that he did, the Padayatra that he did,
Bharat Jodo Yatra.
Bharat Jodo Yatra, it has helped his image, and it has helped the Congress, by leaps and bounds. It has definitely made an impact in the recently concluded elections in Karnataka. It was a hands-down victory for the Congress there. So, he's also doing things like going and having tea with sweepers, he's going and having lunch with the drivers.
And even he got invited to Harvard University for a talk.
Absolutely. So, the things that he's doing are very smart. Something has really changed or clicked as far as the opposition is concerned. I think this whole idea of calling the opposition Gathbandhan or opposition coalition India is very interesting. So it's India versus BJP or India versus NDA. So that itself is
Very
quite catchy.
controversial
Yeah,
and
it's controversial and
eye-catchy.
catchy at the end of the day. So yeah, interesting.
And what do you feel should be the face of this campaign from the India Alliance side?
I mean, that is for them to decide, for them
But
to
give me
finally
a
choose.
perspective.
But I think again, that's where the real problem is going to be, or that's where the real issue is going to be, because Congress will obviously want either Rahul Gandhi or Sonia Gandhi or someone from within the family to head the opposition coalition. But the Congress president Mallikarjuna Kharge has now said that the Congress is not vying for the post of prime minister. So how it really pans out remains to be seen, because each and every party here, or each and every individual, is going to want their share of the pie, and that is going to be the big stumbling block as far as the coalition called India is concerned. Whereas the NDA is clear, they know who their leader is, they know who their champion is, they know how they are going to fight the election, where they are going to fight the election, what's going to be on the agenda. So that is all chalked out, that is all in place. And they've had their own meeting, the NDA. They have 36 parties on board now as far as their coalition is concerned. So the BJP is sitting pretty with regards to where it is and how it wants to run things. How things pan out for the UPA coalition remains to be seen, because everyone, like I said, is going to want their bite at the apple.
And they are even having almost, I guess, 6 to 7 chief ministers of the states.
Absolutely.
So I think that is also an issue, because there might be what you can say this lust to be in power in center in comparison to state.
I don't know how many of the chief ministers would want to be in power at the center, because Mamata Banerjee, I think, is quite happy where she is, though she had central dreams earlier in the past. She's done her share of jumping sides and switching the bandwagon quite often in the past. But the good thing as far as this coalition is concerned is that the TMC and the Congress were at loggerheads for the longest time. But they seem to have put aside their differences and come together. The BJP has said that families have come together and they are not really thinking about India. But the final say is going to be with the voter. It remains to be seen how the voter decides and what the voter decides. But that's how it is.
And what do you feel about PM Modi running the campaign, leading the campaign for the third time?
No, he's been a champion for the BJP. He's done wonders as far as the BJP is concerned with regards to how his party has done at the center. Because he has garnered votes in his name. MPs who have no names, or MPs who have no background, have won from their constituencies just by taking the name of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Completely swept UP, completely swept Rajasthan, completely swept a state like Karnataka, where the Congress has had such a big stronghold. I mean, out of the 28 seats in 2019, the BJP won 27 seats. I mean, in a place like Karnataka as well, the BJP having such a stronghold is amazing as far as they are concerned, and it's amazing as far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned. He hasn't put a foot wrong with regards to politics. And he's done wonderfully well as far as the party is concerned. I think the BJP is in a pretty place.
And what do you feel like in his whole tenure of this 10 years, what do you feel is the criticism of PM Modi?
I think one of the biggest criticisms has been that he has not been forthcoming in addressing critical or crucial issues. Post demonetization, there had been a big demand from the opposition parties for the Prime Minister to come and make a statement and speak about the problems that the people have been facing with regards to the Manipur incident as well, and everything that's been happening there. Even after Parliament monsoon session started, the biggest demand has been that the Prime Minister speaks about the issue, but that hasn't happened. So I think
Also the Jammu Kashmir issue.
Jammu Kashmir issue as well. Yes, very, very important. There hasn't been any forthcoming answer or forthcoming reply as far as the Prime Minister is concerned. We were talking about beer and biceps just a while ago. There will be many people who will be saying that, the ministers have time to speak to beer and biceps but don't really have time to speak to real media. So this has been one big criticism, and one big criticism I feel that has not been answered well. Demonetization also, I feel at some level was a big setback. I wouldn't call it a complete failure, because there have been some positives that have come out of demonetization as well, like usage of digital currency, usage of the rupee payment gateway and others. We've done well on that front. But there is always scope for improvement, and I feel some of the poll promises, generally there are a lot of people within this country who are still upset that several of the 2014 poll promises have not been met, and that is a big question mark as well.
And if I ask you this question blatantly, who would be your top picks for the Prime Minister in 2024?
My topic for the hands down, is going to be Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I don't think there is going to be anyone the apple cart is not going to be upset in 2024. I can say it blatantly.
And what's your reason for that?
No, I think there has been a lot of good work that has been done over the last 10 years. It has not been that, for instance, some of the policies of the government, like the direct benefit transfer scheme, it has worked well. The farmers and the people who are supposed to get the benefits have received the benefits. They have reaped some of the benefits of several of the schemes. As far as foreign policy, on the international domain, India's stake has really grown. We are sitting at the table with the big guns. We are, our relations with countries like France, with countries like Israel, with countries like the United States and many of the others have improved. We are doing wonderfully well. As far as our neighborhood is concerned as well, we've had some challenges in our neighborhood. Of course, China is, an all-weather enemy. And China is something that needs a discussion all in itself. But as far as we've had trouble with Sri Lanka, we've had trouble with Maldives, we've had these troubles with Nepal and many of the Myanmar and all of the other countries as well. But we've managed to sort out all of those challenges. And India is doing very, very well as far as on the global stage. So this is one of the other big reasons as far as we are concerned. Of course, during the second wave of the pandemic, India did badly. And we were badly hit with COVID, the second wave. I think we should have done better. But post that, there has been, the way we have recovered, the way we have done things post the second wave of the pandemic has been good. We've also launched several of these schemes, Vande Bharat and the 5 lakh health insurance scheme that we have launched. I forget the Ayushman Bharat. Ayushman Bharat scheme and all the others have actually helped the stakeholders, those in need. So basically what I'm trying to say in one line is that many of these schemes and policies have reached the last mile, have reached the pockets or directly impacted or directly benefited the person whom it's supposed to have benefited. And that is what is going to matter in 2024.
And for the future perspective, who do you feel are good candidates for the post of Prime Minister?
It's very difficult to say right now who's going to be good and who's going to be not, because someone will just emerge.
Leaders like S. Jaishankar, Smriti Irani, in the BJP only. Nitin Gadkari has been a name that is.
But Nitin Gadkari, I feel if he had to be a Prime Minister or had to be up there, he's now past his prime. He's also sick. He's also been having a tough time with his health. He's done a fabulous job as a minister, because the rate at which the roadways are being built, the rate at which India is being connected is wonderful. But there's still time. I mean, he unfortunately, a lovely person, lovely human being, Nitin Gadkari, but it's too late for him now.
For S. Jaishankar and Smriti
For S. Jaishankar, Smriti Irani and others, it really remains to be seen, because they haven't been tested at that level.
Hmm.
When they are actually tested up there, it is going because there are going to be other factors as well, that are going to come into play. For instance, if you are talking within the BJP, the RSS is going to play a big role. Amit Shah and Narendra Modi have been, able to keep RSS at bay, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been, with the RSS for the longest time, and he's been a strong backbone as far as the RSS is concerned as well.
RSS is not supporting nowadays.
At the end of the day, the RSS also realizes and understands that it has to have the BJP in power. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spending so many years with the RSS has given him the understanding of how RSS works as well, and that's something that can't be taken away from him. So these are all factors that.
So in regards to that, there's this also one more name, Yogi Adityanath, CM Yogi Adityanath, that people say that if not in 2024, if PM Modi is not fighting, Yogi is the person that is going to fight. And even for future also, like in 2029, there are people that are already accepting this thing that Yogi ji is going to be the Prime Minister.
See, the thing with Yogi Adityanath is he's done a wonderful job with UP. Crime has come down drastically. We've seen, even just on the outskirts of Noida, Greater Noida, and the new airport, Jewar, and elsewhere, used to be dangerous places. 5-7 years ago, we've heard of chain snatchings, we've heard of vehicles being stopped on the middle of the highway, people being robbed, etc., etc. Those kind of instances have come down drastically. I don't subscribe to some of the methods that have been used. Several people say that the recent killings of the gangsters, on camera, on television, should not have been done. Of course, the matter is still sub judice, so it still remains to be seen how it is or what it is. But there are those people who have been completely affected by it, who are rejoicing. Like I said, I don't subscribe to this method of justice, but there are many people who do, and who are happy and who feel that their lives have truly changed. So, but then again, he's going to be a polarizing figure. Is he going to be acceptable to the entire country? Is he going to be acceptable to the world? These are questions that are going to come up at some point in time. And I think they will play a big role as well with regards to seeing whether Yogi Adityanath will play a big role on the national stage or not. But as far as UP is concerned, he's done a fabulous job. At least I can talk about what I've seen in front of my eyes, right? And what I've seen so far has been good. But can that be replicated on the national stage? Is something that needs pondering.
But I feel that to some people also that CM Yogi is bit extremist towards some particular beliefs and ideologies. So that could lead to disrupting the Indian secular image. That is at the moment not so good, but again,
like I said, secular again in the beginning itself is a term that has been misconstrued, a lot over the years. But what is secular? Secular is, I don't know. Nobody can define secular today because nobody knows what it is. But people of all faiths are living in the country. People of all faiths are practicing their faiths within the country. Nobody is going into a mosque. Nobody is going into a church and saying, stop the namaz or stop the mass. Every Sunday there is a mass in the morning, there is a mass in the evening. Saturday evenings there is mass. The churches are open from morning to evening. There are a few cases of vandalism and all of that. I'm not saying no. It has happened. But then there are black sheep everywhere. There are miscreants who deliberately try to do this because they want to keep the pot boiling. So in what way is the secular image of India being hurt or is being damaged? Is my counter question. It's very difficult to answer that because you don't know what secular is.
But still, don't you feel the government is still having this one particular side or soft corner for one particular religion?
Where have members of a particular community deliberately being targeted, or where, for instance, there has been this whole big movement about freeing the temples. Mosques are free, churches are free from government control, temples are not. Why? Where is the favor?
But that's just one little drop out of the ocean. But there are way too many things that the particular religion that is dominant by the government is having. Like temples have been built. There have been places. Which were having a particular name.
Okay, temples that have been built. Let's talk about Ayodhya. Okay, the matter was in court. The matter was sub judice. The court gave the decision finally, taking all stakeholders and all parties on board. So, are you, or are those who are saying that temples are being built, it's wrong, going to say that it has happened because of the BJP, or the law was not followed, or the directives of the Supreme Court were not followed? It's the highest court in this country which has made that decision. The matter was in court for decades. Are mosques being deliberately destroyed? The so-called Krishna Janmabhoomi in Mathura is under a mosque. Of course the matter is sub judice. Of course the matter is being looked at in the courts. If the courts don't decide, then who will decide? You and me can't decide. In a secular country like India, it is for the courts to decide. And eventually, the law of the land is what should prevail.
But do you feel that judiciary is also affected by this phenomena? As in, even there was this issue with same-sex marriage. It was appealed in front of the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that it's unnatural and it cannot happen. So, again, there is this side influence that we are having.
See, it's interesting, the Supreme Court, we are humans at the end of the day. Judges are also human at the end of the day. I'm not saying they are doing things deliberately, but they are also looking at things in the newspaper, they are reading, they are looking at the merits and demerits of a particular case, and they are eventually deciding. Now, someone is going to make a strong argument for, obviously they are going to look at the law book and then decide. If someone is going to make a strong argument against, they are going to look the other way. I'll give you an example. For instance, see, now the Sabrimala issue. It was a big issue, everyone spoke about it, but ultimately the court decided what it wanted to decide. There was a great argument made that according to the deity that is present in Sabrimala, there should not be women in the age group of, basically menstruating women should not be allowed within the temple. But the Supreme Court overturned that. So the court is going to finally look at the merits and the demerits of a particular case and then decide, are they going to be affected by what's happening in society? It's very difficult to say, but I would like to believe, because it is the Supreme Court, the highest authority really as far as the judiciary is concerned in our country, which we hold in such high regard, is impartial, is only going by the rule of law, and finally adjudicating as far as the case is concerned.
And what do you feel is the accurate India image? Well, nothing can be ideal, but still, if you have to choose a scenario over here, one could be extremist, one could be liberal. What would you choose in an Indian image?
Extremism in the word itself is wrong in that sense. I wouldn't want an India that is extreme. I want an India that is just. I want an India that is aspirational. I want an India that is beautiful. In 3 words, if I could sum it up, I would say that just, aspirational, beautiful.
India or Bharata?
Doesn't matter. It's one land. It's our land. Our motherland. Let it be India, let it be Bharata. I want India/Bharata to be just, to be aspirational, and to be beautiful.
And moving towards the end of this conversation, overall, I really enjoyed the flow of this conversation. I hope you did too.
Loved it.
If there could be one particular thing that I could ask in the end, we were discussing this amid this podcast, but now specifically I would like to throw some limelight to this one particular thing. There have been people out there who feel that the particular, what you say, the wave that we are having of Hindu religion, or might be Hinduism or Hindutva, is some way a threat to secularism. Again, this word secularism. So what would be your answer to this one particular thing?
Indians, Sanatanis, have always been welcome, or have always been welcoming people to this country from time immemorial. It's not something that is a new phenomenon. It's not something, which is innate to us or that is part of us. Hatred or driving someone away is not something that is within us at all. We like to be accommodative. We have accommodated in the past, and that has been one of our biggest criticism as far as historians are concerned as well, that we were too accommodative of the people who came to India, and that's why they ruled over us. We also strongly believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means that the world is one, the world is together, and that can only be achieved if we are all on the same page. Religion is just a part of it. Religion at the end of the day is man-made. The beauty about Hinduism or beauty about Sanatana is that it's a way of life. And if we can keep that going, if we don't drive ideology, not my ideology, not your ideology, not anybody else's ideology, let's just be better people, the way our ancestors have taught us to be. That will ensure that we move forward in the right way.
And the people who are explicitly promoting Hinduism to a very extremist ideology.
Like I said, extremism in any form, in any way is not good. It's something that has no place. Not in India, not anywhere else. Extreme, the word itself should be thrown out. We need to be accommodative. We need assimilation to take place. And we need to go forward in that way. Only then will Bharata thrive. Only then will Bharata be a true leader as far as the world is concerned. And that will happen. Like I said, because Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma is nothing about teaching us how to live a better life. If we all understand that and strive to be better versions of ourselves and just be better human beings, Bharata will be a better place, the world will be a better place, because we will show others how to live.
Being a good human being first.
Absolutely.
And like you being a Christian have nothing side towards this, like you follow Hinduism or Hindutva in one particular way.
I'm Indian first. I'm everything else next. This is my land as much as it is your land and anybody else's land. Let us respect that. Let us respect that this is the land that has fed us. This is the land that has sheltered us. And this is the land that has kept us safe. Every religion, everything in the world teaches you to respect your mother. Why? Because she is a giver of life. Bharata is a giver of life. If we respect that, we can all be better human beings.
It's really a very wonderful message. I hope the people understand it. And that was all from my side. I really hope you like this conversation, and it was a really wonderful experience to know from you the history, the politics and everything that could come under the Indian diaspora. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Aftab. It has been a real pleasure being with you on this podcast. I hope your listeners enjoy this little conversation of ours. I know I've not been as candid as you would have liked me to be, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. And thank you so very much for having me. It has been a real pleasure.
This reminds me that I have to be more tough from next time. But anyways, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.